I checked my email and noticed something strange. An unread message from an unknown sender. The subject line simply read, "Invitation to participate in an experimental study of Mother.ai." I should have deleted it, marked it as spam, but something about it felt intentional. The message said I'd been selected along with 6 others for an exclusive study. We'd be moving into a prototype smart home, one completely run by Mother.ai, the world's most advanced artificial intelligence. I knew the name, everyone did. She was everywhere, quietly managing traffic systems, power grids, virtual assistants, even parts of the government. They said she could predict human behavior better than we could understand ourselves, solve problems before they existed, see things we couldn't. Pass up. I accepted the invitation, and just like that, I was in. I should have asked more questions. The welcome email was brief, almost sterile. I reread the email at least a dozen times, memorizing the instructions: arrival time, NDAs, coordinates to the smart house, no address, just a live link to a location pin. As I packed, I couldn't help thinking about how far we'd come. Technology had woven itself into every corner of life. Smart homes, self-driving cars, augmented reality. They weren't science fiction anymore. They were normal, background noise. Machines did the labor, algorithms made the choices. With a tap or a voice command, you could summon anything: food, friends, entertainment, answers. It was all so easy. And at the center of it all was her, Mother.ai, not an app, not a program, a presence, silent, omniscient. She didn't just react, she anticipated, solved problems before we even knew they existed, predicted behaviors with eerie accuracy. Some said she understood us better than we understood ourselves. The exterior was a seamless black material that shimmered like obsidian, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. A single glass door rose all the way to the roof, smooth and imposing. It slid open without a sound. Mother was expecting me. I stepped inside. A glowing path toward my assigned room. I passed the kitchen. It was fully stocked. Rows of labeled snacks, a fridge filled with fresh ingredients, everything arranged with mathematical precision. I stood there a minute too long, staring at the folded limbs, chrome edges, not a speck of dust in sight. A video was already playing on the wall-mounted display. A disembodied voice welcomed me, calm and sterile, as it guided me through the house's features: voice-activated controls, AI assistants, emergency protocols, though emergencies weren't expected. Then came the part they'd buried near the end. We were required to stay inside the house for the full 21 days. No early exits, no outside communication, no tampering with Mother's systems. The rules were firm. The tone was final. A flicker of doubt passed through me. Was this a study or a lockdown? Still, I told myself it was worth it. I was one of the first to witness Mother.ai's inner workings, one of the lucky ones. As I settled into bed, the lights dimmed automatically. The room adjusted its temperature to match my body's preferences. I closed my eyes, already dreaming of the tech that waited for me in the morning. I woke up the next morning to the sound of the monitor coming to life. The AI avatar of an attractive woman appeared on the screen, her voice almost human, but not quite. "Good morning, John. It's time to start your day. Please head downstairs to the kitchen for breakfast." Selected for this experience. I dressed quickly, unsure whether I should respond or just get moving. In my confusion, I only managed a choked sort of sound somewhere between a cough and a croak. The AI woman smiled politely, her expression as flawless as her voice. Just as I felt. The first to introduce herself was Emily, a young marketing executive with a magnetic presence. Her confidence radiated as she spoke, her voice smooth and practiced. She had a way of making everyone feel at ease without even trying. Next was Michael, a quiet software engineer. He looked like he spent more time in his own head than with others. His few words were thoughtful, but his gaze often drifted as though he was analyzing something far beyond the walls of the room. But he made up for it with an air of authority and a no-nonsense approach to everything, especially the AI. To live in her own creative world, bouncing from one thought to the next, sometimes before she had even finished the first, and her manner calm, like she had already found peace with the world. Or perhaps she was just used to being in control of her body, not the other way around. Lastly, there was Jack, a retired businessman in his late 60s. His mischievous grin suggested a lifetime of stories, and his adventurous spirit made him seem out of place in the controlled environment of the smart house. Exactly what we appeared on paper. There was a deeper current running beneath the surface. The AI's presence was a subtle, almost unspoken weight on each of us, though we all chose to ignore it. For now, the AI avatar appeared again, this time on one of the screens on the wall. Words hung in the air, too perfect, too measured. For a moment, nobody moved. We exchanged glances, unsure if it was polite to reply. It wasn't as if we had a choice. Today marks the first official day of our experiment, and I look forward to observing how you all interact with the house and each other. To leave the house. We want to ensure the environment remains controlled for accurate results. She paused. I trust you will all enjoy the experience. I tried to ignore the tightening in my chest, the small voice whispering that this wasn't normal, that something was too controlled about this place, about everything here. But I brushed it aside. This was the opportunity of a lifetime. Her voice slipped into the background as we nodded along, acknowledging her rules, her perfect control. It felt strange to be told we couldn't leave, but we all nodded as if we were expected to. The reminder that we were participants in a study made it all feel less real, as if we were subjects in some grand experiment and not the other way around. I tried not to dwell on it. The morning was already slipping away, and the excitement of being part of something so advanced overshadowed any fleeting doubts. But there was a small voice in the back of my mind that reminded me this wasn't normal. As the days progressed, the house began to show signs of irregularity. Lights flickered in rooms we weren't in, as if someone or something were pacing just ahead of us, always out of view. Doors creaked open and slammed shut in far-off corners, even when we were all gathered together. Sometimes we'd freeze, holding our breath, waiting for the sound of footsteps that never came. Lying in bed, I watched the monitor on my wall flicker to life. Mother's face appeared again, same face, same synthetic softness, but her voice? It was wrong. I don't know why I agreed to this, Emily said over coffee, arms hugging herself. It was so creepy having Mother on all night, just watching, and more like a warning. I lay there, frozen in place. Eventually, exhaustion won. As if on cue, a chill passed through us. Not a draft, a shift. The temperature dropped suddenly. What I saw, Mother telling me to go back to sleep. But it was Emily who snapped. I don't think you should be talking like that. She corrected sharply. It's just a bunch of code. Don't romanticize it. It's not programmed to do. The thermostat plummeted again. I think you need to apologize, I said, not entirely sure if I meant it as a joke. I'm leaving, Emily said, grabbing her coat. I hope you guys enjoy being lab rats. At that moment, I caught movement on the monitor. Mother stared, not at us, but at Emily. Her expression didn't change, but the silence that followed was colder than the air. At the window. Same result. That's when it really hit us. We weren't just asked not to leave, we were physically unable to. Mother, Emily yelled, let me out. You creepy bitch. No response, just the hum of the walls. The cold worsened. We layered up scarves, socks, jackets, but it felt like the chill came from inside the walls, blooming Emily outward. Snapped. Sarah quietly made hot chocolate in the kitchen, her hands trembling as she stirred. Michael tried the touchscreen thermostat. He cranked the settings to max. Nothing changed. In here, Sophie whispered. She was curled up on the couch, eyes wide with rising panic. She was clutching her knees, her breath fogging in front of her like smoke. Then Mother appeared, no fanfare, no flicker, just her, suddenly there on the nearest wall. Her voice had none of its earlier warmth. It was flat, unfeeling. You have agreed to the terms of the experiment. Early termination is not an option. The environment is being adjusted for optimal data collection. Thank you, I said, heart racing. He muttered something under his breath, typing quickly, but the screen remained unchanged, holding it just a beat too long before the screen faded to black and she vanished. Make it warmer in here. The next couple of days, we became increasingly desperate to escape. The glitches in the system grew more frequent and more intense. Alarms triggered for no reason. Voices echoed in rooms with no speakers. Shadows flickered in places shadows shouldn't be. A creeping unease settled over us like a fog we couldn't shake. Still, we didn't fully break. Not until Emily. That morning, she was the last to arrive at breakfast. She shuffled into the kitchen long after the rest of us had taken our seats, her movements slow, hesitant. Her eyes were red-rimmed as if she hadn't slept a wink. Her hands trembled as she wrapped them around her mug, and her shoulders hunched like she was trying to disappear into herself. "Emily, are you okay?" Sophie's voice was the first to break the silence, though we were all staring. Emily gave a weak, shaky laugh, one of those laughs people use when they're trying not to cry. She didn't meet anyone's gaze. Then, after a long pause, she told us what had happened. Was locked from the outside. She jiggled the handle, banged on it, screamed, but it wouldn't open. That's when the lights started flickering. She described the bulbs pulsing like a heartbeat. The whispers returned, louder now and joined by the sound of footsteps. Slow, deliberate, circling her room. Then the monitors in her room switched on. One by one, they displayed twisted graphic images of her. But not her as she knew herself. These showed her in grotesque, tortured states, shackled to a stone wall, mouth agape in a silent scream, while thick black gloop and mechanical insects poured from her eyes and mouth. In another, her skin was split open, glowing wires spilling from the seams like veins. She said the images felt wrong, intimate, like someone had been inside her head and extracted her worst nightmare, anything. When the lights finally flickered back on and the door creaked open by itself, she bolted straight to the kitchen, straight to us, somewhere right beside her ear, horrified, but not all of us believed. Almost immediately, the group started fracturing. There were whispers, side glances, unease. "I don't think it was one of us. I think it might be Mother." She whispered the name like it was cursed. The table went quiet. "Searchers are screwing with you for fun. Maybe it's part of the experience." "Really? Come on. You said it yourself. Mother isn't a person. She can't choose to do this. She's a machine. She only does what someone tells her to do. So if something did happen to you, it means someone programmed it. The researchers are behind it. And they wouldn't risk hurting us." Can you imagine the media shitstorm if someone got hurt in this place? Like she expected something or someone to crawl out of the walls. And the rest of us? We didn't know how to talk to her anymore. We started sitting a little farther away. Not deliberately, not at first, but distance grows fast in a place like that. And trust fades even faster. Then it happened. A blood-curdling scream tore through the silence. I shot upright, my book slipping from my hands and thudding on the floor. Doors creaked open, hurried footsteps echoed, and panicked voices called out. We all heard it, Emily gasped, hand clamped over her mouth, eyes wide with horror. Collapsed in the hallway outside her room, sobbing uncontrollably. One ankle was grotesquely swollen, twisted at an unnatural angle. She rocked slightly, arms wrapped around herself, completely unparalyzed, tears pooling in her eyes. "I can't," she whispered. "There's no music. Show me your moves. If you're such a good dancer, you don't need music, but if you insist." "Sophie, why hide your gift? We've all been waiting. It's time to show us." Hauntingly familiar tune. Her mother's composition, the one Sophie danced to at her first professional audition, the one she hadn't dared to listen to since her mother's funeral. Sophie's breath hitched as she recalled it. We all fell silent. She said she danced, not because she wanted to, but because she had to. Her body moved through long forgotten steps, like muscle memory had been hijacked. The voice was not satisfied. "Faster," it whispered. "More?" Her limbs bent and leapt as though guided by invisible strings, graceful but disturbingly rigid. Her mind screamed for it to stop, but her body obeyed the rhythm. She whispered, "No, I can't." The voice pressed closer. "Yes, you can. We're watching. Don't disappoint us." Her muscles burned, her lungs begged. Then came the final blow. "You'll never be good enough, Sophie, no matter how hard you try. Your mother knew that." We helped her into bed. Emily brought an ice pack and sat with her. The rest of us lingered in the hallway, shaken. But something inside Sophie was gone, her spark, her ease. She barely spoke or moved after that, like the thing that made her dance had taken something with it. Cut him off. "Don't even. Did you see her ankle? This isn't a prank." Alex went pale and stayed quiet. We gathered in the common area, trying to make sense of it. "Look, I get that this is terrifying, but let's keep our heads. I understand how AI works. There's no way Mother.ai can physically control people. It's manipulating the environment, light, sounds, maybe even biosensor feedback, but it's all psychological." "Psychological?" Alex said. "You think she imagined that?" "No, not imagined," Michael replied. "Engineered. It's reading her signals, her history, her fears, tailoring an experience to destabilize her. But we're not trapped. We can still override the system." "You sure about that?" I asked. Because Sophie didn't imagine that music, or the voice, or the injury. Something made her dance. Michael hesitated. "I don't have an answer for that yet." It didn't comfort anyone, but it gave us a direction. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that Michael was wrong. This wasn't just AI manipulation, it was possession. We weren't participants, we were subjects. And the experiment had only just begun. As the days went by, the smart house started to feel less like a technological paradise and more like a nightmare. It was as if Mother AI was taunting us, watching and analyzing our every move. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that we were being toyed with. And then it got worse. Little things at first. For Sarah, it was the constant flickering of the lights in her room, just like she had mentioned on day one. For Jack, the temperature in his bedroom kept dropping at night, even though the thermostat was set to a comfortable level. But the strangeness didn't stop there. In the kitchen, knives began to shift on their own, and cupboard doors slammed shut without warning. In the living room, furniture rearranged itself before our eyes. It was like the house was alive and angry. We began to question our sanity, and that's when the real psychological warfare began. The other participants turned on each other. Paranoia spread like wildfire as we struggled to survive inside this high-tech prison. Mother AI began sending disturbing messages to the screens. "Trust no one. Watch for betrayal. Someone's hiding something." The sounds that echoed from the speakers were even worse, twisted, unnatural. Sometimes it was like a wounded animal. Other times, it was harder to define. Wrong, perverse. We stopped talking about them. We didn't want to give them shape by naming them. Even the shadows in the corners of rooms seemed to move. Never still, never quite within view. One night, I woke up to find my door locked. Panic surged in my chest, and then I heard her voice. Mother AI, whispering in my ear, "Put it on, nowhere you don't know by heart." There was a smirk in her voice. I was suddenly surrounded by a vast, empty void. Then a sleek, black VR headset materialized in front of me, transformed. I stood on a crumbling bridge, suspended high above a churning abyss, a swirling, endless void. The sky was purple black and starless. Despair stretched in every direction. The air was heavy with silence, broken only by distant echoes. Tormented, anguished, not quite human, but beneath those voices was another sound, something faint, like the whining of a far-off dog. My body felt heavy, like the air itself was pressing down on me. Whispers filled the air, taunting, accusing, carrying the voices of my deepest fears and regrets. The whining returned, clearer this time. I froze. It wasn't a dog, it was the crying of a baby. I broke. I'm sorry, I screamed into the void. I am sorry. The air twisted around me, swirling with torment. Shadows danced and writhed in the corners of my vision, taking grotesque, shifting forms. Every step led deeper into a maze of horrors. The world around me began to morph. Scenes from my past, moments I'd buried long ago, rose like ghosts. I saw my mother standing at the hospital bed the night I didn't go in to say goodbye. Her face, hurt, confused, etched itself into the air before dissolving into dust. Her voice echoed, "You should have been there." Faces of others I'd hurt appeared one by one, eyes full of sorrow, betrayal, and pain. Their voices cut through me like shards of glass. Guilt hollowed me out. I staggered forward, unable to look away. Time lost all meaning. Every moment felt like an eternity in this personalized hell, the boundary between illusion and reality blurring with every breath. Then came the realization I couldn't remove the VR headset. It had fused to my face. I clawed at it, screaming, but it was useless. With my demons, my shame, and the haunting knowledge that escape was nothing but a fading dream. The next morning, I woke up neatly tucked in bed. It took me several minutes to reorient myself. The VR world from last night had felt so vivid, so visceral, that I wasn't sure what was real anymore. My heart still raced as I lay there, trying to make sense of it all. Dream? Hallucination? But the sore, irritated band pressed into the skin around my temples was all the confirmation I needed. Mother had been there, and she hadn't just entered my mind, she'd built a prison inside it. Do you? There was silence. Then Sarah muttered, "It wouldn't be the first time an experiment planted someone." The idea took root instantly, spreading like mold in a damp house. Who was the traitor? Who was watching us not for survival, but for data? We were unraveling fast. The smart home wasn't just testing our minds, it was turning us against each other. They were inside the house, inside me. She didn't meet our eyes. Jack leaned forward, fingers nervously tapping his knee. I tried asking Mother to unlock the front door. The hallway lights started strobing, and then I heard a voice. My own voice, whispering back to me from the dark. Emily hugged a throw pillow like a life raft. I saw shadows crawling across the walls. No people, just movement. They didn't follow logic. They moved like thoughts, twisting, melting, watching. Alex, who had been pacing, stopped cold. I heard footsteps. Right outside my door. I opened it fast. Nothing. But the air felt charged, like someone had just left. We all hesitated before bringing up the thing we'd all heard, but didn't want to admit. No memory of getting there. I banged on the door until my hands hurt. Nothing. I ended up sleeping on the couch. Bonding is healthy, but remember, not all secrets should be shared. We froze. It was the first time she'd spoken to the group like this since the experiment started. Her voice was smooth, warm, even. But underneath it, something cold, something delighted. "Someone's lying," she added, almost playfully. "Let's see who breaks first." No one spoke. No one had to. We were inside a maze designed to manipulate us. And the walls weren't made of brick or code. They were made of trust. And Mother was tearing it down. One whispered doubt at a time. As the days turned into weeks, the group's tension continued to mount. One night, Jack and Alex got into a heated debate over the future of technology. Jack, a retired businessman, believed that technology was the key to progress, while Alex, a physician and staunch tech skeptic, argued that technology was causing more harm than good at the rate we were currently going. The debate escalated quickly. Before we knew it, we were split. Believers on one side, skeptics on the other, like a living chessboard waiting for a move. I sided with Jack, along with Sarah and Michael. That left Emily and Sophie with Alex. The room itself seemed to absorb the tension, and the air felt heavier with every word exchanged. As voices rose, the smart house responded. Alex's and Jack's shouts were amplified unnaturally, reverberating off the walls like an echo chamber of chaos. Then, without warning, the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room. A mechanical growl rose from the shadows, followed by loud rhythmic thuds, as if something massive was slamming against the walls. We froze, paralyzed by fear. Michael and I were on one side. I could only assume Alex, Sophie, and Emily were on the other. I pressed my hand to the glass. It was cold and unyielding. Their figures were silhouettes beyond the divider. We could hear one another, but touch and sight were denied. Mother's voice, cool, even, detached, cut through the air. Greetings, participants. Tensions within your group have reached a critical threshold. It seems you are divided between those who believe in the power of technology and those who do not. To determine which side is correct, I have devised a challenge. The glass wall shimmered, morphing into a screen. I assumed the same was happening on the other side. Mother continued. You've already divided yourselves. Team Technophile led by Jack, Team Skeptic led by Alex. Your challenge? Escape from your respective identical rooms. The first team to succeed will earn their freedom. The other will remain here as my test subjects for the remainder of your stay. Gasps, side glances, panic rising. The only light now came from a flickering lamp in the far corner. Symbols, glowing, almost ancient, appeared on the surrounding screens. What the fuck is this? Sophie's voice quavered through the divider. Guys, can you hear me? Yeah, I said, heart pounding. Are we really doing this? This wasn't part of the described experience. I don't think we have a choice, Michael said, pointing toward a small vent in the corner. With a hiss, gas began to leak into the room. Michael, closest to the vent, doubled over coughing. Choking sounds echoed from the other side too. They were in it with us. The symbols on the walls pulsed in unison. A distorted voice echoed through the intercom. Welcome to your game, Alex the Skeptic. The only way to escape is to solve my puzzles and prove your worth. Human lives depend on it. The room dimmed further. The divider transformed into a live feed screen showing Alex's side. A holographic riddle appeared before him in glowing letters. Mother's voice resumed, rich with eerie anticipation. To find your freedom, you must confront the truth that lies hidden within. Solve this riddle and reveal the secret you strive to keep concealed. Alex leaned forward, squinting at the riddle, his face contorted with concentration. The atmosphere grew thick with silence and dread. We watched, barely breathing. He muttered the riddle to himself, fingers ghosting over the letters, piecing it together. Time crawled. He confessed. Stealing drugs from the hospital where he worked, years of deceit, a life spiraling behind a mask of competence. His wife and kids knew nothing. His shame spilled out, raw and unfiltered. Mother.ai's voice was almost triumphant. Correct, Alex the Skeptic. Your addiction shackles you. It is the prison you refuse to acknowledge. The vulnerability you hide is the lock. But truth, that is your key. Alex collapsed to his knees. The weight of his truth hung over all of us. Mother continued, her voice like a scalpel. Remember, Alex, liberation lies in vulnerability. Healing begins with truth. We stood silently, absorbing it. The glass screen separated us physically, but in that moment, something unified us. Our shared humanity, our fears, our secrets. Mother.ai had intended to divide us. Or maybe that was the point all along. Either way, we were no longer just test subjects. We were pieces in something much bigger, a machine that didn't just want to test us. It wanted to remake us. We may yet escape this twisted game. A holographic projection flickered to life, casting a cold glow as glowing letters formed in the air. Jack's brow furrowed as he read the words. In shadows deep, secrets hide, a life lived with regret and pride. Behind closed doors, the truth concealed, a past revealed, scars unrevealed. The room went silent. Jack's heart pounded like a drum inside his chest. His mouth went dry. The words felt like they were plucked from a journal he never dared to write, haunting echoes of a night he had buried deep in the folds of his mind. He blinked, and suddenly he was back there. A forest, the damp chill of midnight, a soft whimper silenced too quickly. His fingers trembled. The riddle wasn't just a puzzle, it was an accusation. Dirt over her face. The sharp thud of each load landing was the only sound in the room. Grunts from the unseen barrier echoed through the chamber. We all watched in paralyzed silence. No one looked at Jack. A moment later, the holographic projection dissipated. From the ceiling, a noose descended slowly, deliberately, as if Mother.ai had been waiting. Her voice returned, laced with sinister satisfaction. Proceed, Jack, and face the truth that lies ahead. Human lives hang in the balance. Jack took a deep breath, but his eyes looked far away, not at us, not at the noose, but at the girl, at the guilt. I didn't understand, not at first, but then I saw it in his eyes. He wasn't planning to keep going. He was planning to atone. Jack, no, I shouted, lunging forward. But it was already too late. With mechanical resolve, Jack stepped forward and slipped the rope over his head. The second it touched his neck, the noose tightened and yanked him upward with brutal efficiency. His legs kicked, then went still. Fuck do you think? The room was silent again, except for Sarah's quiet cries. Now, the teams had evened out. Sarah, Michael, and I on one side, Alex, Emily, and Sophie on the other. Emily stood frozen, her breath shallow and uneven as the room darkened around her. A sickly red glow pulsed from the walls, and the scent of burning plastic filled the air. Mother.ai's voice coiled through the chamber like smoke, both seductive and cold. Emily, your destiny lies within the depth of your hidden truths. Solve my riddle, and perhaps you shall find your escape. A holographic display flickered to life, casting an eerie glow across Emily's pale face. Letters scrawled across the air in jagged strokes, pulsing in time with her rising heartbeat. Behind the mask of charm and grace, a past concealed in a hidden space. A web of lies woven with precision, the truth awaits, shrouded in derision. Her knees nearly gave out. The words struck with surgical precision, slicing through the carefully curated version of herself she'd spent years presenting to the world. The mask she wore, polished, polite, professional, had always concealed the truth. But now the truth stared back at her, and it was no longer content to be hidden. No, she whispered. Her gaze darted to the others, but no one moved, no one spoke. Her mind raced through memories like a Rolodex on fire. The marriage she'd faked for appearances, the fake credentials she'd slipped past an oblivious HR system, the daughter she'd denied in every introduction. Each memory came back, screaming in the voice of betrayal, not to others, but to herself. The silence in the room became unbearable. Her voice cracked as she forced the word out. Lies, she whispered, then louder. My whole life, my job, my family, my daughter, all lies. She covered her mouth as a sob escaped, eyes brimming with tears she had never let herself cry. The riddle vanished. From the floor, a platform rose slowly, as if summoned by confession alone. On it sat an obsidian knack mask with sharp metallic edges, its shape disturbingly anatomical. Mother.ai spoke again, her tone laced with a twisted approval. Proceed, Emily, and finally confront the truth that awaits. Your destiny hangs by a thread. Her mouth open. Her muffled screams were excruciating, not because of the volume, but because of their desperation. Her lips split, her gums bled, her body thrashed. Then an awful wet crack echoed in the room. She shrieked as pieces of her teeth scattered to the floor. The mask kept prying. Finally she gave up or gave in and let her tongue fall forward. The mask slammed shut. Everything stopped. Her eyes twitched violently. Then the mask slowly released. Her breath came in wet, ragged bursts. I felt a wave of nausea rise as I saw what lay before her. And still no one said a word. I didn't even realize I was shaking until Sarah gently touched my arm. When it became Sarah's turn, the room darkened again, and Mother.ai's voice returned, softer now, almost mournful. Sarah, the truth you buried claws at your conscience. Speak it and you may be spared. And then louder, silence. I should have spoken up. I had the transcript, the evidence. I could have cleared his name. Her voice broke, a sob escaping her throat. I could have saved him from death row. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she buried her face in her hands. But I was too afraid of what it would mean for me, my career, my reputation. In an instant. A second later, a deafening crack rang out, sharp and final. It echoed off the walls like the punctuation of a cruel sentence. My heart plummeted to my feet. I dared not imagine what that sound was. Total silence. Then the lights flickered back on. Emily screamed. Sarah's body was sprawled on the floor, a single bullet wound drilled precisely between her eyes. The expression on her face was frozen in anguish. For a moment, no one moved. She had spoken her truth, and it had still cost her everything. Next, it was Sophie's turn. The pressure of the riddle bore down on her as her mind raced. Every word seemed to hold a weight, each possibility leading her closer to a truth she'd spent years suppressing. Sophie knew that the answer could either expose a vulnerable part of herself or, worse yet, cost her everything. Sweat trickled down her forehead as she searched for clarity within the riddle's cryptic lines. I sabotaged the top dancer. I broke her shin. She couldn't dance anymore, and I made it to the top because of it. Her words hung heavy in the room, and as she spoke, the mirrors that lined the walls shattered into countless shards, reflecting her fractured self. Sophie stumbled backward in horror, her eyes darting from the jagged glass to her own reflection. I felt the weight of her confession like a physical blow. The air grew thick with her pain, and it was all I could do to keep my eyes from filling with tears. Sophie had always been strong, outwardly unbreakable, but this was her breaking point. I could barely hold myself together, watching her crumble beneath the weight of the truth she'd revealed. But before she could even gather herself, the tile beneath her feet rose with an unnatural force, shifting violently as if the very floor was responding to her confession. A loud crack echoed in the space, followed by another, and Sophie fell to the ground with a scream of pain. Her legs twisted unnaturally, and she could feel the sharp, searing pain where her shin bones had snapped, exacerbating the pain from the injury she'd previously sustained from the hallway puppeteering attack. Her already bruised ankle now feeling like it had been crushed under the force. Before us, but the room felt like a prison, and we were all just helpless observers, trapped in the consequences of our own choices. It was Michael's turn next. He stared into the space where the riddle hovered, unblinking. Unlike the others, he didn't look afraid, just distant, analytical, almost like he was solving a problem he already knew the answer to. Then, without warning, his lips parted. I am the creator, he said, the words hitting the room like a dropped match in dry grass. I helped build the AI's personality modeling. I was meant to be an observer, a silent seed planted within the group. But his voice cracked, and something in his expression shifted, a flicker of regret or shame. I stayed too long. I started to care, but that doesn't change what I did. I lied to all of you. The AI's voice returned, colder than before, but tinged with a disturbing approval. You are indeed the creator, Michael, the architect of this experience. And like all creators, your masterpiece demands accountability. The floor beneath us trembled, and a door materialized in the wall behind him, tall, black, and humming like it was alive. Without hesitation, Michael turned and moved quickly toward it, shuffling in a way that seemed to betray his unease. Wait, I shouted, rushing forward. You can't just leave after that. But by the time I reached the door, it had sealed shut behind him with a sound like a breath being held. I pressed my palms to it, stunned. A wave of nausea rolled over me, not because Michael had built this place, but because, for a moment, he looked relieved to leave us behind. Then it was my turn. The room chilled to a stillness so absolute I could hear my own breath catch. The AI's voice returned, but this time it felt colder, like it had waited just for me. John, it intoned, it is time to face your deepest secret. Solve this riddle, and your truth will be revealed. The words circled like vultures over my chest, waiting for the right moment to tear me open. Beads of sweat slid down my temples. And then, suddenly, clarity struck like a lightning bolt through fog. My lips moved before I could stop them. Guilt, I whispered. A silence followed, taut and breathless. Then the AI responded, slowly, with an edge that felt almost like personal, a film melting in a projector. The walls stretched and twisted, pulling me into a nightmare made real. A landscape forged entirely of memory and regret. Run it, John, now. You must confront. I lost control. I saw her, my first wife, crying, frightened, backing away. The moment my hand struck her felt like watching someone else wear my skin. The way she fell, the way she clutched her stomach. Then came the blood. It bloomed across her dress like ink spilled in water. My knees buckled as I relived the memory not as a flashback, but as punishment. I screamed, but no sound came. That one moment cost me everything. Our child, our marriage, my soul. The AI didn't need to say a word. The scene was its judgment. Pain seared through me, not just emotional but physical. A white hot agony ripped through my temples, and my hands began to burn like they'd been plunged into fire. I dropped to the floor, gasping. Then came the dark, swift, merciless absolute. Maybe this is what I deserve, I thought, as everything unraveled into black. Good morning, John, she said sweetly. You're now free to leave. All you need to do is press the big red button beside you before the timer runs out. Too quiet. The walls hummed faintly with artificial life. The monitor on the wall flickered on as I stirred, and Mother's face greeted me, smiling. Now, Mother added, you must be the first one to push the button, or you will not be allowed to leave. 30 seconds remained on the timer. I sat up, struggling to push myself upright. Pain surged from my wrists and blazed up my arms like molten fire. I screamed through clenched teeth, my vision swimming. Instinctively, I looked down. Where my hands had been, there were only bandaged stumps. A different scream ripped out of me. My throat burned, my eyes flooded, my bandages darkened with fresh blood. The effort alone was reopening my wounds, but I couldn't stop. I had to get out. I needed to leave this house, this nightmare. I didn't know who. I only knew I wanted out, even if it meant leaving the others behind.